Welcome back to another fun-filled show. I'm your host, T. S. Blanchard, aka Free Blanche, aka Blanchard-Damas, aka Blanchy Kruger. And today's title is Iran, Wars and Rumors of War. What's up, Justice for the PA 620-6228? And what's up, Nicodemus? Good evening, Blanchard. I've made the Discord server. Ideally, it'll work as an unofficial fan club. I'll drop you an invitation link at some point, but I need to gauge how many people care to join. Okay. I mean, I'll join. I'm not too familiar with Discord, but I'll join. Does that mean it's a fan club for me? What's up, Mayno? What's up, Patrick? What's up, Janan TV? What's up, everybody on IG? What's up? What's up, The Ice Cold Wolf? What's up, Tierra? Again, today's title is Iran, Wars, and Rumors of War. What's up, Soy for Night? What's up, JV Chanel? So let's just jump right into it. I ran across some videos that were very interesting. Let me think for a second. And it was an old Charlie Kirk video talking about Iran. And it was a guy that I just discovered talking about Iran and the US dollar. What's up, Scrapping Beauty? What's up, JT? What's up, Mima? What's up, Hogman? Blessings down. Blanche for president. Hey, thanking people. Thank you. You know I couldn't be president, though. You know I couldn't be president. Thank you, Scrapping Beauty. Thank you. Don't make me blush. Anyway, let's jump right into it, man. Let's jump right into it. I'll play the Charlie Kirk video first, and then the other guy's video. I thought what he had to say was pretty interesting. June 17th, 2025, on the Charlie Kirk Show.
So let me first just paint to you the two extremes, and then also let you know that's actually not how life works. And Donald Trump is actually rejecting both extremes. Here is Lindsey Graham. This is just lunacy. This kind of analysis is not helpful. This kind of approach, this kind of argument, it has nothing to do with nuclear weapons at this point. This is now that we want to go all in and take out the regime. It's time for us to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen and start a new chapter in the Middle East. And that sounds good, doesn't it? But what have we learned when it comes to wars, and especially wars in the Middle East? What you draw up on a whiteboard rarely happens. What you think theoretically is going to occur, there might be unintended and unforeseen consequences, especially when you're talking about a country 2.5 times the size of Texas. It has 90 million people and was an ancient and great power with well over a dozen ethnic groups. You have underground Christians. You don't really have many Jews left in Persia, but also you have secular younger Persians. Who's going to run the country exactly, Lindsey Graham? This sounds like Hillary Rodham Clinton in Libya. So I'm pointing to the first extreme right now, the neoconservative extreme. We must go take off the head of the snake right now. And Donald Trump is doing a phenomenal job of resisting these calls for regime change. He's playing around with it on Truth Social, as he should rhetorically. President Trump should rhetorically taunt and rhetorically threaten regime change. Absolutely, he should engage in information warfare. Play cut 285.
I have a question for you all. How do you ethically bring about a regime change in a country? Like, how do you ethically bring about a regime change in a country? Like, how do you do that the right way? I don't see how that's possible. I don't see how you can bring about a regime change in the country and not engage in nefarious actions. Because how would you convince the people to want a new regime? You would have to use methods like propaganda. You would have to do some underhanded things. It involves some deception, propaganda, some programming, some false flags. Like think about everything we're required to make a regime change, and then think about the communists. And then ask yourself, well, if it's bad when the communists do it, then why isn't it bad when the US does it? And I'm asking this question because this is what I mean by selective morality, selective outrage. I talk about this a lot because what's going to send people to hell is that. That's going to send people, because people are going to be like, over here I condemned it, over here I celebrated it. What made you celebrate it over here and condemn it over here? The same action. This is what's going to mess people up. That's called being double-minded. And when we know if you're double-minded, then you're already doing the will of Satan. The Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. Not some, not a few, not a couple, but all. So talks of regime change, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, are no different than what communists and Marxists do. It's no different. It's just you want to do it for what you believe is good, and they do it for the same reason. They believe it's good too. They believe enslaving humanity is good too. No, scrapping beauty. I get why we do it. I'm just saying what makes it different is my point, is my question, I guess. What makes it different? And so Charlie Kirk is pushing to get back against regime change. And I just want to ask, how do you ethically do a regime change? I don't know how you do it. I don't see how you ethically do a regime change in another country. I don't see how you do it. You thought I wasn't live?
Be all in, President Trump, in helping Israel eliminate the nuclear threat. If we need to provide bombs to Israel, provide bombs. If we need to fly planes with Israel, do joint operations. But here's the bigger question. Wouldn't the world be better off if the Ayatollahs went away and replaced by something better? Wouldn't Iran be better off? It's time to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen. Let's close that chapter soon and start a new chapter in the Mideast, one of tolerance, hope, and peace.
Okay, that sounds good, but that's pathologically insane. I'm sorry, it is. How do you know it's going to be better? Yeah, the Ayatollah is awful, but maybe he's one of the few guys that can keep that country together and not have a 90 million person civil war. Lindsey Graham is so consistently out of his mind, it's hard to even comprehend. Iran is hugely diverse. It is a massive country. Do the people agitating for war even know that? Because be clear, regime change is war. Just to understand, regime change is not like changing the head coach at the Chicago Bears. It's not how it works. Oh, we're going to bring a new head coach. I think that some people think that it's as easy in like sports terms. Oh, we're just, okay, Nick Saban is gone. We're going to go bring in the coach from University of Washington. Sorry, Andrew. Oh, okay. Mario Cristobal left the University of Oregon. We're going to go bring in Dan Lanning, which actually ended up being very good regime change. It doesn't work that way. It's not like a clean transfer. Typically in the Mideast, it's very messy, creates a quagmire, and then there is civil war. Do you understand how large Iran is? It's massive. It's a very big country. It's mountainous. It makes Afghanistan and Iraq look like a cakewalk. Just look at this beast of a country with all the different regions, all the different dialects. If we could put that up on screen. And then you have a major refugee concern of Mohammedans that will come to Europe and endanger more Christians and Jews.
Now, I looked up Iran, and Iran has 92 million people, but almost 80% of the people live in the cities. I think I said this back on a show with RPG, Red Pill Brown Girl, but the majority of people in Iran live in the cities. So you got 3 major cities that basically have all the people there in the areas around those cities. So they live in the western part of the country. The eastern part of the country is pretty much barren. But I don't know. I just think from a war standpoint, that they have all their people on one side of the country. Like, I don't know, like all in the major cities. I just don't think feasibly. I think the issue with war with Iran is trying to be ethical in the fighting, because really you could just bomb the 3 cities and they cooked. Like, it's just, they're finished. But if you do it the right way and get on the ground, it's probably going to be a problem. But anyway, let's continue. But I guess Iran is the size of two and a half Texases, I guess. 2.5 states of Texas. To me, that's not big, but I guess on a global scale, it's big because Iran is the 17th largest country in the world. So I guess that's big. I didn't think it was big, but I guess in terms of war, it's big. But I'll stand corrected.
Mohammedans that will come to America. No, that is wrong. So that is one extreme.
And also with regime changes, and when America goes in there and starts shuffling the deck of cards, those people end up flooding Western countries. Every time the U.S. goes over there and does something, those Muslims end up going to Western countries. And they set up shop. So I'm like, that's what I was asking, I think maybe last year, I was like, what's the point of fighting in the Middle East if all they do is come to our country and set up shop? And now we got to fight them over here. Like, it's just crazy. I don't know. I asked that question, but what's the point? Like, we fight them over there, they come over. Look, fight them over, their enemies over there, but then come to America and they get greeted with open arms. Or they go to Europe and get greeted with open. Think about what I'm telling you. We fight them over in the Middle East, they're bad. Think about what I'm telling you. In the Middle East, they're bad. But when they leave the Middle East and go to the Western countries, all of a sudden now they're good. It don't make any sense. It makes absolutely no sense. So we're fighting over here just for them to come and invade the countries over here. It's just dumb. It's just dumb.
Now, Donald Trump rejects that, and he says, no, I don't want regime change. He's never ran on regime change. He doesn't believe in regime change. He is resistant to that. But there is another extreme. There is another extreme, and I get the temptation to be in the other extreme. I actually agree with a lot of this other extreme, a lot. I think it's healthy to have this other extreme more than the neoconservative extreme, because this extreme has been underrepresented in the public dialogue and discourse the last 20 years. The other extreme is one that I have deep respect and reverence for, because I actually think if we had that other extreme, we would not have invaded Iraq. This other extreme is philosophically important. It's important to consider, and that's the Ron Paul extreme. And I love Ron Paul. Ron Paul is awesome. I would have Ron Paul on the show regularly. He is a hero because Ron Paul had the courage to challenge old sacred cows of the Republican Party. He made people defend the indefensible. But the Ron Paul perspective is strictly isolationist. He would say, who cares if oil goes to $140 a barrel? That's not our role. We don't need to police the Strait of Hormuz. It doesn't matter if Iran gets a nuclear weapon. Kind of fortress America, fortify it, and let the rest of the world do what it wants to do. Sounds good, but it doesn't work, as the American economy is actually largely dependent on intertwined global trade. You don't have to like it. It's the way it is. I'm going to keep on building up these two extremes because President Donald Trump actually finds himself in the arithmetic mean and a very prudent middle to weigh both options. He is not an isolationist nor a neocon. He's an American patriot. So you have these two extremes. I honestly don't think the neoconservative extreme needs to be represented philosophically anymore. It's uninteresting to me. They've done a mess of Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, the entire Middle East, Ukraine. We know what the neoconservatives believe. I do think hearing out, and honestly, I agree with a lot of the more, I think isolationist is used as a pejorative, but let's just say restrained community. But it doesn't matter what Charlie Kirk believes. It's actually not that relevant. Let me tell you what President Trump has in front of him. And this is the stuff of which statesmen are made. A statesman is a man at the highest moment when you have the weight of the shoulders, like Churchill or Lincoln, of the world on your shoulders. You act with prudence and not on ideological fervor. President Donald Trump is a man.
J.V. Chanel said, they never flood Israel. You notice that? I actually, now that you brought that up, that is interesting. That these people that leave the Middle East find their way into all these Western countries, but they don't go to Israel. They don't go to Israel. They go to all the other Western democratic and Western nations, but they don't go to Israel. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it's true. It's interesting.
And made for this moment. This is why President Trump was elected president of the United States. So on one side, he's getting phone calls from Lindsey Graham. Mr. President, we need to invade Iran and liberate the mullahs. Wrong. Like that's a non-starter. I'm sorry, George W. Bush, that was an administration ender for George W. Bush. And the more that we remind people about Iraq and Afghanistan, I actually think it allows us towards a healthy way of viewing what's happening in Iran. And then the other side, which is the online MAGA base, especially the younger MAGA base, is very against U.S. involvement in Iran. And I understand it. I share it. I get it. I totally understand it. We've known nothing but quagmire, lies, deception, intel agencies that have spied on Trump, intel agencies that lied about weapons of mass destruction, intel agencies that misled us about Libya, intel agencies that led us about almost every single corner of the region. We took an online poll. 90% of our audience and 400,000 people voted were against the United States getting involved in a war in Iran.
I want you to think about that for 1 second. And I thought about this. People get upset because people don't trust what the government is saying when the government has lied to the people. And this is my thoughts on all of this. If you don't lie to the people, you keep your trust. There was no reason to lie about weapons of mass destruction. And we know it was a lie because in 20 years, they found zero. And so you lied to the American people for over 20 years, and now you're saying that this country is building nuclear weapons. But somehow, some way, when we get over there, we're not going to find anything. And I think we got to start being honest. Like, I don't get mad at people for questioning the government or the president or anything because people don't lie before. It was your job to not lie to us, period. Most people blindly put trust in the government and the media. Blindly. In the government, the media, politicians, people blindly put their trust in those things for decades. And how did those entities repay the people? I'll tell you. When they had everybody's undying loyalty, they turned around and still lied to the people. Think about what I'm telling you. Imagine having people believe whatever you say and you still lie to them. I remember one time T.I. got caught cheating on Tiny, but what's funny is they got an open marriage. How you get caught cheating and y'all got an open marriage? Like, why are you lying to your wife and you got an open marriage? Why are y'all lying to the public when the public blindly trusts and believes you all? It doesn't make any sense. So this is why you all are distrusted. And I can't blame the people for not trusting you. I can't. Charlie, Real America's Voice did a poll. He said 90% of the people voted they didn't want involvement in Iran. 90%, that's a lot. Okay, I got you, Justice, for LPA. I've got to dip in and out of this live as I'm occupied, but I shall drop you an email regarding the Discord. It'll be more of a discussion of Blanchard's Topics Club than a dedication to a human. Okay, bet. Combat Medic said in July, they said they destroyed their capabilities to continue their nuclear program. So if it was destroyed in July, did you see it? Hold on. Do y'all see what I'm saying? It's like the boy that cried wolf. You keep telling us about nuclear weapons, but you never find them. They always get, it's like we're watching Scooby-Doo. I almost got away if it wasn't for those darn kids. Like, it's just like it's like it's almost a nuclear weapon build. I'm like, dude, when we gonna say, enough's enough? They almost about to build it. They can't have a nuke. We spent 20 plus years looking for nuclear weapons and we didn't find any. Do you understand how crazy that is, y'all, to not find none? Zero? Let's continue, man.
President Donald Trump has been saying this for nearly 10 years. Here's a montage of President Trump saying Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. Play cut 315.
You cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. You cannot let it happen because bad things will happen if that happens. But everybody stopped. They were ready to make a deal. We would have made a deal that was great for everybody. No nuclear weapons. You can't give them nuclear weapons. Now they're going to have a nuclear weapon. But I wanted to make a deal with them. No nuclear weapons. You can't have nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are the single greatest threat to this world, to the whole world. And Viktor Orban understands that, and some others do too. I just didn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I said, we're going to make a great deal. Everybody's going to be happy. You're going to be rich as hell again. Everything's going to be great. But you cannot have a nuclear weapon.
You can't let Iran have nuclear weapons.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
And that's just a short little taste of what he's been saying for 10 years. It's the man in the arena that counts. It's easy to lob criticisms, easy to say, oh, why is it you are even mobilizing the USS Nimitz? And we have no idea how this is going to work out. But I encourage you, as you view the next couple of days, to not view things overly ideological. In fact, we should resist ideological fervor, saying, oh, take out the oil fields. No one wants poverty for the Iranian people. You take out the oil fields, get ready for $180 a barrel gas, a lot of Iranians starting to starve, and potentially an Iranian civil war. Take out the Ayatollah. Resist that temptation. That's not prudence. That's not self-control. That's something else talking. That's a zeal. And the very same zeal got us involved in a pile of garbage in Iraq. It all felt good with shock and awe in March of 2003. We're unstoppable. We're going to take Iraq in a weekend. Turns out, didn't work that way. A lot of people died. A lot of Americans died unnecessarily. And so President Donald Trump finds himself in the decision-making chair. President Donald Trump, 10 years ago, said two things. And he ran on it, not just recently, but he ran on it for a decade. And both these things can simultaneously be true only thanks to the realpolitik approach of President Donald Trump and the MAGA agenda, a book that I wrote. These two things he said 10 years ago. Iraq war was a bloody catastrophe and a disaster, and it will never happen again, and Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. Only President Donald Trump can hold both those things in his hands. Only President Trump, with prudence and practicality and wisdom, is able to weigh them both, thread the needle, and walk the tightrope. President Donald Trump is a man made for this moment, and we should trust him.
And then right after you say we should trust Donald Trump, it says God is in control. Jesus Christ is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. I thought that was just funny. Boy, that's funny to me. Oh my goodness. Blanche has said numerous times that he likes Trump. Yeah, I do like Trump. Listen, man. And this is what people gotta understand, right? If I like you, it doesn't mean I'm not going to be critical of what you do. I'm critical of what I do. So just because I like somebody doesn't mean they're off limits. And a lot of people like somebody and make them off limits. I don't make anybody off limits. I don't want anybody making me off limits either. I can get the smoke too. But just because he's Donald Trump doesn't mean he's above reproach. It doesn't. So again, even with this whole the picture that he posted, somebody painted a picture of him and he posted it. Some folks took it as offensive. Some folks took it as a joke. My whole point with it was that I know that if anyone else, like Joe Biden, had somebody paint them a picture like that, the right would have had something to say. When they try to make Obama Jesus, the right was calling him the Antichrist. Now, Obama is very close to the Antichrist. I'm not going to deny that, but I'm just saying that people pick and choose based on who they like. I say you have to get out of that mindset, because one day they're going to present somebody to you that is literally going to be the Antichrist. I'm just telling y'all. He's going to be the Antichrist. And you're going to have a tough time going against him because everybody that you like is supporting him. Do you all understand that when the Antichrist shows up, it's going to be very difficult for you all to go against him, for you all to not support him? Let's just say hypothetically. Let's say that Israel is building that third temple for the Antichrist. And let's say the Antichrist comes out of Israel. I'm going to ask you all a question. If the Antichrist comes out of Israel, how many people on the right, the evangelical Christians, Republicans, how many of them are going to draw the line at the Antichrist if he comes out of Israel? How many people on the right are going to say, this is where we draw the line? Combat Medic said the throne of the Antichrist will be in Jerusalem. Okay, I'm just saying though, if the Antichrist comes out of Israel, do you understand what that does to this entire thing? If you have an undying allegiance to Israel and the Antichrist comes out of Israel, How are you going to separate the two? So when the Antichrist comes, it's not going to be this easy decision where you just say, you know what, I'm not going to follow him. It's not going to be that easy. Trust me, it's going to be set up to where if you go against the Antichrist, you're going against the world. You're going against everything. You're saying, I want to be separate from the world. Top Herc said, Blanche, why so much Nike imagery tonight? I don't know. I was looking for something and I set my shoes right there. I just had this shirt hanging up in the closet. I don't know. Somebody said Adam was the snake that tricked Eve. Okay, I guess. Okay, here goes the second video. Got another video.
Okay, so just recently, the president of the United States gave a speech, and a lot of people were looking forward to, hopefully, the announcement of the end of the war. But that's not what ended up happening.
President Trump warning Iran the entire country could be taken out if they do not make a deal.
Every bridge in Iran will be decimated by 12 o'clock tomorrow night, where every power plant in Iran will be out of business, burning, exploding, and never to be used again. I mean, complete demolition.
In the middle of that speech, the stock market futures dropped. Oil went up even more than before, and Bitcoin went down. And it's all because the Strait of Hormuz, the most important oil choke points on Earth, responsible for 20 million barrels a day, is still closed. We know it's closed because of the most important chart you can look at today, which is this one. It shows total tanker transit calls, which are still down. Now, some people believe that if this strait stays closed for another 2 to 3 weeks, which is virtually guaranteed at this point, based on what the president is saying, the global economy will then reach a breaking point where even if the war stops, it might be too late, and it would start a crisis all around the world. And there's a theory that this crisis was planned as a way to bring about a major change to the world and the monetary system. That's because every crisis has always been an opportunity.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity.
Here we are now with an economy in crisis, but with an incredible opportunity.
It's certainly a major crisis, but it also offers us a unique opportunity.
Unprecedented opportunity to rethink and reset.
The great opportunity for reset.
Opportunity for us to reset.
For a reset.
The president says, in part, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will."
Now, what's interesting is that if you look throughout history, every single time there has been a crisis, the end result was more centralization of wealth and power. And here's a few examples. In 2008, the financial system almost collapsed. And within weeks, the Fed invents quantitative easing, where they buy trillions in assets and bail themselves out. In 2020, a global pandemic shuts down the world, and we're told to stay home. And within a few months, governments all around the world are talking about something called the Great Reset. Klaus Schwab, who's the founder of the World Economic Forum, publicly states that the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. Right? COVID was the crisis, and the opportunity was global coordination of everyone's economies and currencies and centralized governments.
Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished heads of state and government, the future is built by us, by a powerful community as you here in this room.
The point is, there's a pattern throughout history. Every single time there's been a crisis, there was an opportunity for central planners to change how the world worked. Now, I'm not saying that there's some shadowy room somewhere where there's 12 people that plan all this. I don't think that's how it works. But what I am saying is that when there's a crisis, whether it's real or not, the people that are closest to power, who saw it coming, have always used it as an opportunity to upgrade the system in a way that centralized power. So the question that I want to explore in this video is, what is the next crisis? And what is the opportunity to centralize more power?
Now, I want you to think about, and most people, hold on, Janan TV said, Blanche, Trump on Truth Social said, world's powerful reset. I'm going to just say this. Here goes my theory on nuclear weapons. Me personally, I don't believe they have any nuclear weapons. I don't. I believe that nuclear weapons are going to be used to get the people of the world to consent to a one world government. That's my theory. I believe there's going to be a scenario where all of a sudden everybody's going to have their nukes ready to fire. So China will have theirs ready to fire, Russia, America, Israel, the Middle Eastern countries, maybe one small country in Africa, maybe one nuke in Africa. So Africa might have one nuke. Everybody will have their nukes ready to fire, and it'll be a moment where there's a solution brought to the table, where all governments need to centralize their power to one government. I'm just saying, this is my theory. They're going to use the quote unquote nuclear scare to get these governments to consent to this one world government. And then miraculously, once there's a one world government, then that one world government will have all the nukes. So I don't know. That's my theory. That's my theory. Top Herc said the next crisis is herpes from ticks. One girl said she got herpes from the gym equipment. Stop the cap. Combat medic is speaking my language. Every 10 years or so, something major happens. 2030 is their target date to have everything in place, and China will be the model government. The global model is China, y'all. If y'all didn't know that. Combat medic is 1,000% correct. The global model is China, just to let y'all know. Lifestyle Juice said UK will be the first country in Europe that Muslims have a nuclear weapon. Every big city in the UK has been taken over by the Muslims. Again, it's just hard not to think this stuff is not orchestrated. We're fighting in the Middle East. Simultaneously, the Western countries are being taken over by the Muslims. Does it make sense? We're putting all this energy to the Middle East. Meanwhile, every Western nation is being flooded with Muslims. The same Muslims that we're fighting over there are the same ones coming over here being greeted with open arms. It's crazy. Ms. Goldie said, Biden said he claimed China's government and he admired China's government and the way of life. I believe it. Yeah. Let's continue. Lifestyle Juice said you can get shingles from gym equipment, which is a form of herpes. Lifestyle Juice. She said she got genital herpes from the gym. Genital herpes, not shingles, not chickenpox. Genital herpes.
Let me help explain what I think all of this might look like. And with that said, let's get into it. Hi, my name is Henri Jick. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the next once in a millennial lifetime event. All right, so I'm going to spend most of this video explaining the next crisis and then the opportunity in the last part of the video, which I think is probably one of the most interesting things I've ever put together.
Total Integrated Training said, look at all the video evidence we have of nuclear tests. They are old school special effects and very poorly done. Have no fear of atomic energy. Because none of them can stop at the time. Yes, I believe the nuclear scare is one big pump fake. I do.
Okay, so there's a number that economist Luke Groman talks about, which is called the net international investment position. It sounds complicated, but what it measures is America's financial balance sheet with the rest of the world. Like how much of our stuff do foreigners own versus how much of their stuff do we own? And why is that important? It's important because if foreigners own a lot of your stuff, they have more influence over the value of it. If, for example, they decide to sell it for whatever reason. Ideally, you want foreigners to own less of your stuff in a conflict situation. Okay, so right now, that number is negative 87% of GDP. What does that mean? To put it in perspective, after the first Gulf War, it was only negative 7%. After the second Gulf War, negative 12%. After the 2008 financial crisis, it was still only negative 15%. But then something happened. We just kept selling assets. We sold our stocks, we sold our real estate, and our treasury bonds, and who did we sell it to? We sold it to China, to Europe, to Japan, and to anyone running a trade surplus against the United States. And that is why today, foreigners own about $70 trillion in US dollar assets.
$70 trillion. Foreigners own about $70 trillion of U.S. assets. Who thinks this is sustainable? Who thinks that this is sustainable? Foreigners own 70%, $70 trillion in U.S. assets. How is this sustainable? I want you to think about these people telling you to worry about Iran, and foreigners own literally $70 trillion of U.S. assets. So you know, if foreigners own $70 trillion in U.S. assets, you know we getting screwed. You know we're getting screwed. It's hard to take these people serious with these kind of shocking numbers. $70 trillion? 70 trillion? Okay, what happens when it's 80 trillion, 90 trillion, and 100 trillion? Then what? There's a cap on the trillions. Meaning there's a cap on how much the U.S. is worth. Is it 300 trillion? Is it like what's the cap? We don't know. Top Herc said Timu owns us now. Total Integrated Training said more than a national debt. People, how is this sustainable? They want you to focus on a war, and we are literally in a financial war. Let's continue, man.
$9.4 trillion of that is U.S. Treasury bonds alone. Now, here's why that might be bad. Those same places, Europe, Japan, China, Southeast Asia, are also the most dependent on oil going through the Strait of Hormuz. And that strait is obviously closed. But they still need to buy oil. And oil is priced in dollars. So they need dollars. Now, I've got a question. Where do foreign governments and central banks get dollars from when they need them really fast? The answer is They're dollar assets, right? They're US stocks, US bonds, they're US treasuries. They have to sell them. And that's already happening. Foreign central bank holdings of US treasuries at the New York Fed just went down to the lowest level since 2012. In 4 weeks, tens of billions of dollars are gone. And that's just the beginning, because it'll probably get worse. Why is it going to get worse? It's going to get worse because when countries sell treasuries, treasury yields go up. And when yields go up, the cost of financing America's almost $40 trillion debt goes up as well. Now, the most important bond to look at right now is the 10-year treasury and its yield, which was in the threes when this war started, but it went up in the last 4 weeks. Now, the question is there a point at which bond yields hitting a certain level breaks the economy? Like, how high does this number have to go for things to start to get really bad for everyone in the US economy? And according to the best research I was able to find, the danger zone is somewhere between 4.6 and 4.8%. And once we get there, we can enter into what they call a debt death spiral. What does that mean? It means the more expensive it is to borrow, the bigger the deficit. Bigger deficits mean more borrowing. More borrowing means higher rates, and it's a never-ending loop. And at almost $40 trillion in debt, that spiral happens really fast, which is also why Jerome Powell said what he said recently about the debt growth rate in the US being unsustainable and ending badly. And it's not necessarily that this 40 trillion number is too high. It's that it's growing faster and faster and faster. And that's bad because that doesn't just burden our generation, but future generations as well. So the question is, what can the US do about it? And there's 3 possible outcomes, and here's what they are. Outcome number 1, let yields go up, right? Let the market do what it does. Treasury yields go to 5, 6, maybe higher. That crushes the US stock market. Why? Well, because investors would rather take a guaranteed 5 to 6% return in the bond market than risk it in the stock market. And because stocks and tax receipts, aka what the government collects in taxes from us, those move together. And when markets go down, tax revenues go down. So deficits explode. Housing gets weaker. Consumer spending collapses. Banks take losses. And we enter into a recession. And because of that negative 87% net international investment position, this recession triggers a debt death spiral that sort of takes the rest of the world with us. Not good. Outcome number 2, print money at the same time oil prices are going up. The Fed steps in, it does what it does, quantitative easing, it buys treasuries, it caps yields, and it does what's called yield curve control. It saves the bond market. But you're also putting liquidity into an economy that's experiencing an oil shock, and that causes inflation. Economist Luke Roman thinks that we could see inflation that makes 2021 look mild. Double digits may be worse. Outcome number 3, walk away from Iran. Just announce, okay, we won, we're leaving now, right? We did it, which might sound like a good option, except here's what's going to happen if the US picks option 3. The rest of the world watches America start a war. It watches the US fail to reopen this major shipping lane, and the world watches as the US retreats. Okay, why is that bad? It's bad because if the US picks option 3, the world then realizes that the US is not as powerful as it used to be, and it doesn't have the influence to restore order. The policeman of the world sort of lost his gun, right? So the media will then start putting out headlines that read, "Is Iran the US Suez Canal moment?" Pay attention to some variation of that headline. If you're not sure what it means, this comes from Luke Roman. It means it is the end of the US empire. Because remember, before the US empire, it was the British Empire that ruled the world. But Britain lost that status because of its Suez Canal moment in 1956, and it never recovered its global dominance. If the US retreats and fails in restoring this order, it sort of accelerates every country's decision to price their oil in something other than dollars. Countries would say, okay, I guess I don't need to use dollars anymore because the US can't protect me and it can't enforce the rules anyway. I'm going to trade with other countries in whatever currency I can find, right? Which also means a weaker dollar, which is also inflationary. So every outcome sort of leads to inflation and a weaker dollar. Now the question is, of all these three options, which one is the US going to pick? And based on everything we know so far, the option that the US will most likely pick is going to be option number 2. They print into rising oil prices. And the Fed's balance sheet, which is right here, which was $9 trillion at its peak and has been shrinking, starts going back up into a crisis. So money printer go burr again, if you remember that from 2020. The technical term for money printer go burr is, of course, quantitative easing, or QE. That is the option the US will most likely pick. But there's a very big catch, because there's different types of QE. One of them does not affect your investment portfolio, and the other one does. Let me explain which QE I think the US will pick. There's type 1 QE, which is what the Fed did in 2008. That's when they bailed out the banks. It's considered non-inflationary. It did not trigger a spike in asset prices. The rich did not get richer. Well, technically, yes, the bankers that got bailed out got richer, but the market assets did not inflate. Why? Because remember, the financial system was collapsing, right? Banks were sitting on mountains of toxic, worthless mortgage assets. The Fed stepped in and bought those bad assets directly from the banks. That cleaned up their balance sheets, right? At face value, there was no new money that entered the broader economy. The central Papa Bank was like, hey, it's okay, guys, we'll forgive you for all those bad loans you gave out. Don't even worry about it, right? It's essentially a cleanup, and it happens completely within the banking system without the money flowing into the real world. That's also why 2008's QE didn't cause significant consumer price inflation, right? That's type 1 QE, aka money printing. Type 2 QE is what happened in 2020. And this one is completely different.
This guy's name is Andre Geek. Andre Geek. Is he doing a great breakdown of this, though? I think he's doing a great breakdown, and he's showing what's really going on behind the smoke and mirrors of the war. This is the real war right here, the financial one. All of this being done is hiding this right here, this money. This is the issue. This is the issue. Listen, Miss Goldie, mattress stores that sell mattresses, they always have the best real estate. If you drive by a mattress store, and they always empty. Y'all notice that? You notice that mattress stores, Mattress Firm and all them, they have the best real estate. You drive by a mattress store, nobody's inside. Nobody. I said years ago, it's either ran by aliens or they selling dope. One of the two. Either the aliens are running it or they selling dope. But I don't know how these mattress stores were able to get the best real estate imaginable, never have any customers, and stay open. I never even see them close down. Like it's crazy. It's a front for something. JV Chanel says smoke shops too. I'm just trying to figure out. Yeah, either the Chinese or the aliens, somebody, and it could be, I don't know, maybe where they spy on them. I don't know. You know what's crazy? I've never even seen a job posting for a mattress store. Like I've never even seen a sign that says we're hiring. I've never seen it. They can all be spies for all we know, or aliens. We don't know. But let's continue. I like this guy, though.
Instead of buying assets directly from the banks and then just forgiving them, the Fed bought assets from non-banks and corporations and pension funds and regular institutions. And when that happens, those sellers deposit the money into their bank accounts. So banks are now forced to create new deposits. New money floods into the broader economy and people have more buying power. But the supply of stuff in the world didn't change. So then what happened? Prices went up. Not right away. There was a lag of about 12 to 18 months. The Fed did huge type 2 QE money printing in March 2020, and then 18 months later, inflation hit 9%. The original economists who created this term QE actually warned this inflation would happen, but nobody listened. Instead, the media told us this. These were the headlines. Here's why economists don't expect trillions of dollars in economic stimulus to create inflation. They were all wrong. In 2020, BlackRock presented this exact type 2 QE at something called the Jackson Hole Conference. They essentially told the Fed what the plan was. And then 6 months later, BlackRock went ahead and did it. Now, how all of this is related to what I'm talking about.
They don't believe in conspiracies, but every time we revisit these, like it's always the same culprits. It's look, this man just said BlackRock. It's always the same people. It's crazy.
Is that option number 2 is the option that the US will have to pick, printing money into the oil spike. The inflation that might happen after that could be a lot higher than 9%, 12 to 18 months after that QE. That would make this graph much, much worse, right? This is where economic growth slows down and inflation goes up. That is called stagflation, and it's very, very bad. Okay, so that is the setup. That's the world as I see it. And the next important question of this video is, well, what is the next phase? What comes after this? What is the opportunity to centralize power? And here's the best theory that I've come across. In order to understand it, you have to put yourself in the mindset of these central planners, the people who influence the world's policies. Here's the core problem that they have. The first major problem is AI and automation. Once AI is allowed to be unleashed into the economy, it's going to displace a lot of jobs. It's going to be painful because not everyone will be able to adapt. But let's say they do. Let's say, optimistically speaking, AI becomes so productive that we find ourselves in a perfect utopian world of abundance where no one needs to work. What's going to happen then? I think inevitably, we're going to need some sort of universal basic income. If that happens, though, that's going to give society way too much free time, and people will start waking up. They'll start organizing. The political process becomes a real thing again. And that's not good if you're a central planner, because you want to be in control of that system, and you want people to be reliant on it. And you want people to be too busy thinking about how to pay their bills, right? That's problem number 1, and it needs to be solved. Problem number 2, though, is the US has almost $40 trillion in debt. It's growing faster than the economy. And now with yields going up, the cost of that debt is growing faster and faster. So how do you solve that problem? The way to solve it is that you find someone else to hold the debt for you. You distribute it to the entire world, but instead of distributing it through inflation, right? Because that only works as long as you're able to export it, as long as other countries want your assets. But what if they don't, right? And what if the next distribution phase is not the institutions? What if it's through people, right? What if the best way to distribute this debt is already in everybody's pocket? So here's what I think the next phase of this new monetary system is going to look like. In a nutshell, what I think will happen is the US debt gets privatized and uploaded to the world. Right? Every major corporation will become.
I want y'all to pay attention to this right here. Listen to what he says right here. This is what he's about to say is about to be crazy. Now they got you focused on the war on nuclear weapons. This is the war right here. Listen to what he says. They got you focused and worried about Iran and a nuclear weapon that don't exist. But listen to what he's about to say right now.
In a nutshell, what I think will happen is the US debt gets privatized and uploaded to the world. Right? Every major corporation will become a bank. Every major app will become a wallet. And every person on earth with a smartphone will become an unknowing creditor to the United States government. They will solve the debt problem and the AI problem at the same time with a digital currency system that funds the government, controls the UBI payments that feeds the people that lost their jobs to AI in the first place, and it gives the central planners a button that they can turn on or off for every single person's financial life. Oh yeah, hold on. That sounds crazy, right? What does that even look like? All right, so imagine Tesla announces a digital wallet. You load it up with dollars. Tesla takes those dollars and invests them into US Treasury bonds, earning, let's say, 4 or 5%. Tesla keeps a little, passes some back to you in the form of rewards, discounts on your next car, maybe charging credits, maybe an actual yield, right? You're happy because your money's working for you. Tesla's happy because they're earning a spread on their deposits, and the US government is happy because someone bought more of their debt. Now multiply that across every major corporation on earth. You'll get Apple Wallet, Amazon Wallet, McDonald's Wallet, Google Pay with yield, every airline, every retailer, every platform we already use. All of them will become distribution channels for US government debt. All of them holding US treasuries as the backing for whatever digital asset or rewards program they'll offer you. Now, if that sounds like some crazy theory, this is literally what the legislation moving through Congress right now requires. It's called the Genius Act. And what it says is any company that wants to issue a stablecoin, a dollar-pegged digital asset, must hold US treasuries or equivalent safe assets as the backing, dollar for dollar, which means corporations will have to buy real government debt first. And this has already been successfully tested with a company called Tether, the company behind the biggest stablecoin in the world. It holds over $120 billion in US treasuries right now. Right, that makes them one of the biggest holders of US government debt on the planet. In fact, bigger than some countries even. And Tether was the system's test. Now, imagine this same dynamic, but with the brand recognition of Tesla, the distribution of Apple, the loyalty programs of every airline and retailer we already use. You're not asking people in Argentina or Vietnam to trust some sketchy crypto company they've never heard of. You're asking them to trust the brands they already love and use in their own countries, brought to them by the courtesy of freedom. And in exchange for that trust, they'll get yields, they'll get discounts, they'll get utility, they'll get to protect their savings and purchasing powers from their corrupt dictators and governments, right? Now, behind the scenes, they become creditors to the United States government. That is how you offload trillions and trillions of dollars in debt globally. All you need is CBDCs, legislation, and 8 billion smartphones. Now, unfortunately, this system, as convenient and generous as it sounds, is also going to be the most sophisticated financial control grid that will ever be built. And the reason I say that is because it's also already been tested. Tether has already frozen wallets. It's happened dozens of times. It has sanctioned addresses, it's flagged accounts, it's regulatory requests. All it takes is a line of code and they can turn your money off. Now,
I'm gonna stop right there. So we already see where this is leading. We already see, and this guy's name again is Andre Jikh. AndreiJikh. This video is they're using the award to replace the dollar. I will put this in the video. But basically what he's describing is the roundabout way for you to voluntarily digitize your own money. See, I tell you all this all the time, that the devil is not going to force anything on you. You're going to consent to do it. So what he's telling you in a roundabout way is that you're going to trust these brands and you're going to put your money with these brands, all the while they're all working together. Why? Because they're all taking on a U.S. debt. Let me be more specific. You're taking on a U.S. debt. The U.S. puts it on to them, they put it on to the consumer. You're taking on it. So that $40 trillion debt U.S. has, guess who's going to pay it? The average person walking around, working. Not the UBI people, not the universal basic income people. The folks that are working are going to pay for it. So you see this war. Isn't this funny? How they say we got to go get Iran, and somehow, some way, this stuff always trickles down to the common working person. This stuff always trickles down to the common working person, always. The person that's doing their working, trying to make ends meet, always gets the brunt of all of this stuff. He just laid out a plan how you want to get people to digitize their own money. And then, like he said, Tether is already freezing money, shutting down accounts, not allowing access. Like, just think about what Tether is doing now to show you, because the devil's going to show you. The devil's already showing you right now, if you do this, these companies will have control of your money. So if you do this, I'm already showing you with Tether. I'm already showing you what they're capable of doing. If you do it, just let you know that you have to walk a very fine line. So that means we determine, the companies determine whether or not what you're doing is in violation. JV Chanel said you won't own anything. This was a slow build, especially for younger generations. They pay for their games like a subscription. When I was growing up, all of our media was physical. It was. Everything is digital now. You don't own it now. Thank you. You don't own it. Somebody said bricks. Now this is going to make bricks very appealing as another option. But I assure you, it will be the same thing. Somebody said modern slavery. That's exactly what it is. But guess what? It's voluntary. They're not going to force this on you. This is going to be voluntary because you're going to go who you trust. But you know they're all working together because they're all getting the U.S. debt. So what I'm telling you is they're working together. You're the odd man out. The UBI folks, the corporations, the government, they're all working together. The common working person, the common man, common woman working to make ends meet, you're the odd person out. You're going to suffer. Janan TV said, you think that's why Trump is talking about eliminating income tax because that will be a part of our wallet? Possibly. We don't know. Possibly. But we do know that whatever plan they have, somebody has to pay for it. Like if a man is married and his wife has an idea, when she has an idea, that's going to cost something. Women don't have free ideas. Their ideas always cost. So if they have a proposal with no income tax, you know and I know somebody's going to fill that void. Somebody's going to pay it. And I'm telling you who's going to pay it is going to go down to the common man and common woman. They're going to get people to digitize their own money. Jarrell said we basically already have a UBI and digital dollar. The entire U.S. economy is fake. Look at ATL. They don't build anything, but it's a wealthy city because of government money injected into it. I agree. Well, what do you mean they don't build anything? Because they build a lot in this city. They always building something. There's nobody staying there. But I will say this. They do build here, but a lot of what they build, it has government subsidies with it. So they allot, like these nice places they're building in Atlanta right now, they've allotted a certain amount of units already for the low-income people. So what they do is to even build these properties, they take the government subsidies to even build them. So that means now you may be a working class person, but a lot of your neighbors don't work. It's just a cold game. It's a cold game. So I will say, yeah, Tierra, ATL is building a lot, but much of what they're building has the government subsidies attached to it. So they're already a lot of these places. That's why you see all these ratchets and these heathens come out of these nice dwellings. Anyway, y'all, listen, I love y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed today's show. We'll see y'all soon. Hopefully on Thursday. I want y'all to be blessed and have a great evening. Thank y'all so much.